confirmed from the ground, with drones overhead and both sides continuing to exchange fire. Israel simultaneously issued forced displacement orders for 10 southern Lebanese towns: Al-Nabatiyeh al-Tahta, Kafr Tibnit, Zibdine, Arab Salim, Kafr Reman, Habush, Blat in the Marjayun district, Dir Kanun al-Nahr, Haruf, and Jibshit. 10 towns ordered empty. In a country where nearly 1 million people have already been displaced since March, a number confirmed by NPR's May 21st reporting. The displacement orders are not emergency logistics. They are the signature of a ground operation being prepared. When the IDF issues that many evacuation orders in that tight a geographic cluster, it is not planning to knock on doors. It is planning to clear an operating area. The Lebanese government was not a neutral bystander this week. Lebanese Army General Staff confirmed in a public statement on May 22nd that an Israeli strike had targeted an army barracks in the city of Nabatiyeh, not a Hezbollah position. A Lebanese soldier was wounded. This is the third time in the current cycle that Israeli strikes have hit Lebanese armed forces positions, and it is the detail that most strains the diplomacy. The Lebanese army is the institution that Washington, Paris, and Riyadh have been attempting to build into a viable state force, capable of displacing Hezbollah in the south. Every time an Israeli strike hits a Lebanese army position, it confirms to every Lebanese soldier in that barracks what Hezbollah has been saying for 20 years. There is no such thing as neutrality when Israel is bombing your country. This is the recruitment poster that no one wants to talk about. On the Israeli side of the border, the cost was also not abstract. Staff Sergeant Noam Hamburger, 23 years old, was killed on May 21st during what the IDF described as operational activity in northern Israel. The IDF did not say he was killed in Lebanon. The IDF said he was killed in northern Israel. That geographic distinction in the current week tells you everything about the nature of the cross-border engagement pattern. At 8 kilometers, the line between operating in northern Israel and operating against Lebanon is a targeting calculation, not a demarcation. Hezbollah's Radwan force does not recognize that line. Neither, functionally, does the IDF's response doctrine. Here is the architecture of the trap that both sides are inside this week, and that neither side is powerful enough to exit unilaterally. The 45-day ceasefire extension, announced on April 24th, following Trump's personal mediation between Israeli and Lebanese envoys at the White House, was supposed to create space for the military-to-military talks scheduled for May 29th. 8 days away, the United States and Lebanon jointly requested that Israel pause its attacks in the run-up to those talks. According to Reuters reporting via Axios this week, the White House did not publicly confirm the request. Israel did not pause. The IDF struck Nabatiyeh, Tyre, and ordered 10 towns evacuated. And Hezbollah destroyed 2 Iron Dome launchers and received a personal commitment from Tehran that the tap is still open. The May 29th talks will happen inside the blast radius of every single one of those decisions. And the parties sitting down at that table will be doing so with their weapons warm and their dead fresh. This is the signal failure of the current Lebanon architecture. And it is a signal failure that 5 separate Western governments have information about and are not acting on. The theoretical framework is the 2024 ceasefire, extended twice, under which Israel maintains operational freedom to target Hezbollah infrastructure anywhere in Lebanon, and Hezbollah maintains operational freedom to fire at Israeli military positions. Under that framework, both parties are simultaneously at war and not at war. Both parties are simultaneously violating and honoring the same agreement. UNIFIL is simultaneously a legitimate peacekeeping force and a target of opportunity. 6 of their soldiers are dead. No one has been held accountable. The system is not malfunctioning. This is the system functioning exactly as the parties have agreed to operate it, until it breaks catastrophically, which is what the Biranit strike on Tuesday night may represent. The word for what Hezbollah demonstrated at Biranit is not a tactical victory. 2 Iron Dome launchers is not a strategic shift in the regional balance. What Hezbollah demonstrated at Biranit is will. The will to conduct a precision strike against a defended Israeli military installation in the open, under a ceasefire, at the exact moment that direct military talks are 8 days away. That is a message. And the message is, we are not the party that is going to blink. We are still receiving our instructions from Tehran. We are still operational. We are still here. If you want the May 29th talks to produce anything, you are going to have to offer something bigger. What you are about to watch is based entirely on publicly confirmed reporting from the week of May 17th to May 23rd, 2026, dramatized in documentary style. Every weapon system, unit, casualty figure, and location on the page is sourced from open reporting. The tactical sequence at Biranit is a dramatic reconstruction of the engagement pattern, confirmed by Al Jazeera and PBS coverage of this week. This is not fiction. This is this week. At approximately 21:40 hours local time on May 21st, 2026, the Biranit military installation, a reinforced Israeli Defense Forces barracks complex positioned in the western Galilee, 8 kilometers south of the Lebanese border, home to an Iron Dome Tamir battery of the Israeli Air Defense Command, went active. Not because of a threat alarm, because the threat had already arrived. Hezbollah's Radwan Force, the elite ground penetration unit that Israeli military intelligence has been hunting since the group's last major operational exposure in 2024, had positioned an anti-armor team in the broken terrain north of the complex in the preceding hours. The engagement method was the 9M133 Kornet laser-guided anti-tank missile, a Russian-manufactured system with a 5,000-meter effective range, a tandem heat warhead capable of defeating 1,200 millimeters of rolled homogeneous armor, and a flight profile too low, too fast, and too cold to trigger the trophy active protection system installed on Israeli armored vehicles, but not on fixed launcher positions. The first launcher was hit at 21:42 hours, the second at 21:43. Both Iron Dome launchers at Biranit were, according to Hezbollah's official claim and Al Jazeera's confirmation, destroyed. 2 interceptor batteries gone. A gap in the missile defense umbrella over northern Israel punched open in 90 seconds on a Tuesday night under a 45-day ceasefire. Take a moment with that number. 90 seconds. 2 Iron Dome launchers. Each one a piece of equipment the US and Israel jointly fund, jointly maintain, and which the world has been told for 3 years represents the technology that makes Israeli cities survivable in a high-intensity missile war. And they went dark in the time it takes to pour a cup of coffee. Before the smoke cleared, the phones at IDF Northern Command were already lighting up. Simultaneously, and the word simultaneously is doing enormous work in this week's Lebanon story. the political architecture that was supposed to prevent this moment was actively collapsing. On May 21st, Hezbollah's Secretary General, Naim Qassem, confirmed he had received a personal communication from Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi. The message, broadcast publicly, was explicit. Tehran will not give up its support for movements demanding justice and freedom, foremost among them, Hezbollah. Read that sentence in its strategic context. The 2026 Iran war, which began February 28th, when the US and Israel assassinated Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei and struck Iran's nuclear sites, has not ended. The US naval blockade of Iran is still active. More than 20 US warships are strangling Iranian oil revenues. And Tehran, hemorrhaging money and military infrastructure, is still funneling commitment signals to its Lebanese proxy. The pipeline has not closed. It has gone diplomatic. At 0:17 hours on May 22nd, the Israeli Air Force response to the Biranit strike began. The F-35C Lightning II, the Israeli stealth variant of the Joint Strike Fighter, equipped with conformal fuel tanks extending its range, spiced 250 glide bombs in its internal bay, and an EW suite that the IAF has never fully disclosed, crossed the northern border at altitude and turned south toward Nabatea. The city of Nabatea, in Lebanon's south, is not a Hezbollah command center. It is a city. It is also where Hezbollah's Nabatea district command infrastructure has been embedded in residential and commercial buildings for the past decade, a configuration that the IDF calls human shielding, and that human rights organizations call protected civilian sites. And the difference between those two interpretations is where 3,020 deaths are buried. Lebanon's health ministry released that number this week. 3,020 people killed since March 2nd, 292 women, 211 children. UNIFIL, the UN interim force in southern Lebanon, has lost 6 peacekeepers to crossfire since the current round of fighting began. 6 international soldiers in blue helmets, killed while standing between 2 armies, conducting operations under a signed ceasefire agreement. What would you call that? Comment 1 if you call it a war. Comment 2 if you call it a ceasefire. Because the IDF is calling it operational activity, and Hezbollah is calling it resistance. And the families burying their dead this week are calling it neither. The strike on May 22nd's dawn hours hit Tyre. Buildings in and around the city were struck overnight. May 22nd to 23rd. Al Jazeera's reporter, Obaida Hitto, you were going to have to offer something bigger than another 45-day extension of a ceasefire that we are both already violating every night. The IDF's response, strikes on Tyre, displacement orders across 10 towns, the hit on the Lebanese army barracks, is also a message. And the message is, there is no level of civilian cost that will cause us to accept Hezbollah's continued operational presence in southern Lebanon. Not 3,000 dead, not 1 million displaced, not 6 UNIFIL peacekeepers, not the explicit request from Washington and Beirut to pause before the talks. The message from Jerusalem is, the conditions for the May 29th talks are not pause. The conditions are Hezbollah disarmed. Hezbollah has said publicly it will not disarm. The Lebanese government has said publicly it will push for disarmament by the end of the year. Tehran has said publicly it will not stop supporting Hezbollah. Washington has said publicly it wants talks by May 29th. And between all of those public statements, on the ground, in the dark, at 21:42 hours on a Tuesday night, in May 2026, A Cornet missile left a launch rail 8 kilometers from the border, traveled 3.5 kilometers at 320 meters per second, and turned an Iron Dome launcher into scrap metal. That is the story of this week in Lebanon. It is not a story about ceasefire violations. It is a story about what happens when 4 parties each have maximalist objectives. None of them have a credible path to victory. None of them are willing to pay the political cost of compromise, and all of them have accepted that the alternative is indefinite attrition at the price of other people's lives. There is a table in Geneva. There are chairs around it. There are diplomats with briefcases. And there are 3,020 names on a Lebanese health ministry ledger that got longer on May 19th, and May 21st, and May 22nd, and will get longer again before this episode ends. The talks are May 29th. Watch this space.